Oh my gosh, takes such a time. We were here on time, and then the thing just whirl and whirl and whirl and waiting and waiting. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. This is Friday, November the 15th, 2024. So, I've got a question for you before we get into the other stuff. I can see this happening, and I think I can see this happening with the Ontario ban on cycle lanes. I can see this happening in Toronto. That Toronto's going to say, no, 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 we don't. We are keeping the cycle lanes. What do you think, Dave? What do you think, listeners?
Well, I don't know. Is it a ban, or is it they're just trying to widen roads in Toronto? Is that the
No, I
main
think
thing?
they're trying to ban cycle lanes and getting rid of they're trying to ban cycle lanes. I think Doug Ford considers them a nuisance.
Well, the initial reason for not so much banning cycle lanes was to use that part of the road that's already used for cycle lanes to expand roads. Toronto has a very unusual congestion problem. It has gone on for a long, long time, and so Doug Ford basically trying to fix the road congestion everywhere has decided cycle lanes is, for the meantime anyway, a bit of a problem. He cannot accommodate cycle lanes while still trying expand, trying to improve
Yeah,
road
I
traffic.
I can just see it being I can see it being a battle point, between some cities and the province.
Well, definitely Toronto. Olivia Chow will definitely be against it because
Yeah,
it's contrary to where the sort of ideology is going. You need people to exercise more and use less carbon. So a cycle lane is a perfect thing for that. It encourages people to use their bikes, and they're becoming more and more popular all the time. So if you can use your bike instead of your car, well, that's good for the climate, and at the same time has the residual or the other effect of improving people's health, which is a problem now, as we have seen by RFK's appointment down south, in the United States as a health guy, and one of his biggest thrusts will be to get people healthier by exercise. So
well, yeah,
it's
the thing,
a cycle thing is a win-win situation. However, when you have traffic congestion as we do,
yeah.
or at
Well,
least as Toronto does, how then do you justify a cycle lane when you really need it for cars and commuters?
Well, and actually, Mike Cushman is making the point precisely that if you look at both Drummond Road and Dorchester Road as they cross the city, they should be two lane for the majority of their existence.
Quite right. The as we invite more and more people into the city, and more condos are being built on roads that are already congested, you can only see this getting worse. And so, although the cycle lanes are a great idea, super idea, a nice safe place for people to cycle, and as I said, it has the dual positive effects of keeping people in shape and reducing carbon effects. I think that's it's hard to argue against the cycle lane. However, when you don't have enough room, like Mike had just suggested, when our roads are becoming less and less effective because of the volume of traffic, uh, where do you then go?
And it's impossible to argue exactly against Mike's point because anytime you go down Drummond Road or Dorchester Road, it's where it narrows that you get traffic congestion. So
Yes,
how can
indeed. Yeah.
you can't deny exactly what Mike is saying, and yet I know Mike is one of these people that is also looking at healthy lanes, right? Um, So now he's also saying they should use hydro corridors and old railways for bike paths. And
Yes,
yes,
indeed.
that helps to a certain extent. Absolutely. So get the bikes off the road, but get networks so that they can go up. And bikes still need to use the road, but you should try and get them off the road as much as possible.
Plus, it's getting dangerous. Like if you go in the summertime, you go down to Niagara on the Lake. There is no bike lane on the roads, but they do have a bike path. But the bike path, of course, is a pedestrian path.
Yeah.
So the cyclists are always having to. They use them. They use them quite often, but they always have to be dinging their bell and so on. But if they get on the road, they can just keep going. But they are at risk, and they cause people to slow down to make sure they can get around the cyclists.
Yeah.
What you want to do is make sure that all the cyclists are safe, that the drivers are not stressed out by the cyclists being there and being annoyed by them. And I don't know. Those are the issues we have. Now the cycle lanes are a great idea. But if you start taking them away, then how are you going to replace them later, or where are you going to replace them with?
Yeah,
I don't think anybody thinks a cycle lane is
I think
except that we just don't have enough room for our cars.
I understand where Doug Ford is coming from, but I don't think he's thought the problem through.
Well, perhaps not entirely. His idea, of course, is just to improve traffic flow. And Toronto has resisted.
I'm 100% in favor of that.
Yeah. Now, Toronto has resisted building more roads and building more highways for a very long time. And the Ontario government has, probably under the entire winning McGuinty government prior to Ford's, probably held back development of roads and stuff on environmental reasons. Now all those roads have to be built, so they're being built. And so there is a reality here, isn't there? There's a reality that we have a bigger population. We need more roads. We have more congestion, and we do not have public transport that would make up for it. And that's a glaring problem I see too. Is we don't have effective transportation. Like if we had via rails going out of our train station on a regular basis to Toronto or any other city where you could easily commute here and there, that may be take a lot of cars off the road, or people took buses or anything. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're for the transportation of the average person. But we haven't developed the infrastructure and our public transportation to the point where it's convenient. As we can see here in Niagara, we're struggling with the price of it, and yet the idea is a good idea.
Yeah,
have a transportation ability to get people from Niagara Falls to Welland, and then stay on the same transportation links.
Yeah, and Mike is also right insofar as when you want to cut something, you should have an alternative in place first. Yeah.
Well, their whole there is no alternative because they're all fighting for the same space. We need it for the cars, and other people says, well, we need it for our bikes. The cars are going to win out, even if Olivia Chow in Toronto, they're more left of center, and they sort of left of the political spectrum. But in this particular case, she's absolutely right. The bikes are good overall. However, Ford points out, well, all you're going to do is get more congestion. What do you want? Do you want more efficient flow of traffic to help the economy of your city? And
they're both right.
Argument.
Yeah, they're both right. They both have points, that are correct. And it's going to be, it's going to be interesting watching that one develop, I think, over time. It's not a current news item, but I'm hearing I've been hearing discussion and seeing some discussion on Facebook about this, which is why I brought this up this morning. Just wanted to get other people's views. All right.
Yes, you heard it first here on Talking Niagara. Peter Giblett has said Ford is right. Well, now, that is a rare thing. We have heard it here first.
But I also said Olivia Chow was right.
Oh, okay. You heard it first here. We are the ultimate fence sitters here.
Yeah. Okay. Postal strike is looming right now. Right. In fact, it should be starting today.
Yeah, this is. I hope not. Strikes don't do anybody any good in the long run.
I know.
It it's usually not very good for either side. It's usually cuts into. Now I'm sure that the postal workers have a strike fund. Hopefully they have enough of a strike fund to hold them over on a.
But they're not going to go on. They're looking at rotating strikes, which means that at all times there will be people in work.
Now this is an unfortunate thing because those smaller businesses usually depend on Canada Post because it's cheaper. It's cheaper than courier services and things like that. So it's to have to have a postal system that works very well is essential to usually smaller businesses and stuff that have to deliver their wares through that, and they can't afford the more expensive couriers. We don't want the average. We don't want businesses to suffer. We don't want that. We don't want the postal workers to have to tax their strike fund, and we don't. And basically, I don't think it's a good thing all around. Now, this has been negotiated for over a year now. Isn't that very typical? Didn't it sound like the rail workers? Didn't it sound like the dock,
they have
workers?
They broke off this. There was I don't know. They haven't been negotiating. This government has a bad reputation for not negotiating.
Leaving it to the last minute. They claim they have been, but they really haven't come to a conclusion. And they wait for the 11th hour.
Yeah.
They waited for the 11th hour with the Seaway workers. And look, it cost them a week or so of transport through the vital link of the vital Seaway that's so important to the Canadian economy. And the rail workers also, they waited till the 11th hour. And then what they were eventually forced them back to work or forced them to arbitration.
I think
we're in a situation here now where the one of the NDP commentators says this is a weasel way out. They figure that the federal government's going to do the same thing. It's forced them into some sort of arbitration when they've had plenty of time to make a reasonable negotiation and get it done without having to force them into anything or take unusual action.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's just another thing, from my viewpoint, it's another thing in this Liberal government that is like, well, get your frigging contracts, negotiated at a reasonable time. I'd say early, because I'm like you. I want to avoid a strike, and I know that also these things always take time, don't they? From the opening shot of negotiations, for somebody like the postal workers, you're talking about at least a year, aren't you? From their initial salvo of we want to the point at which you're striking.
Now, Labor Minister Stephen McKinnon said the federal government is urging both sides to negotiate a settlement, but on the other hand, he made comments as his government ordered the Canada Industrial Relations Board to step in and to end the protracted labor dispute that's locked up cargo shipments at ports in Vancouver and Montreal. NDP labor critic Matthew Green said he's concerned that Ottawa will eventually do the same thing to Canada Post as a weasel way out of solving labor issues without having to vote on them in Parliament. So basically, what he was quoting there, the article was quoting what they had done with the dock workers and the CN workers, and that just kind of stepped in and said, "You got to settle it. That's it. You're essential workers." We're getting to the point where everything's an essential worker here in Canada.
Yeah.
definitely the Canada Post strike could adversely affect small businesses, particularly.
Yeah,
You don't want that.
it certainly does. And you actually raised a question. We don't use the post very much, but suddenly, if we're going to be having to courier some stuff that we have otherwise been made, that we otherwise put through registered post, that'll probably double the cost of our postage.
Yeah, and once you get the Conservatives in, they may dissolve the Canada Post nearly all and start to farm out the delivery services to competitive delivery services and give them contracts to do that, rather than have the Canadian government be involved, which would be kind of a disaster. I think we do need a.
I think it's. I'm not a fan, and never have been a fan of privatization of the post office. I don't mind privatized courier services like DHL and you know and etc. I've got no problem with them being in existence. I think we can have both. But you know, the post office is an infrastructure thing.
Yes, you do need these unifying forces in Canada. You want to be able to send a letter, or a postcard or something. You know, it only takes 2 days. If you mail it from Niagara Falls, it only takes 2 days to get to Whitehorse in the Yukon, even though that you sent it to Newfoundland.
But apparently each week, Mario, you're talking about remote places. Each week, Canada has about 280 flights that fly to remote parts of the country to deliver mail. And these assist other carriers in delivering packages and mail as well. So these flights actually fly from like Toronto to northern parts of Ontario, or other big cities to smaller areas, and they carry packages that will not only just deliver Canada Post packages, but maybe DHL or FedEx.
Well, there's a solution here. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
we can use the underutilized North Pole delivery system that only does it once a year. We could tap into that.
Yeah, but come on. The old guys, the old guy has it hard enough getting everywhere on Christmas Eve.
Well, we can fit them up with some temporary foreign workers, and so yeah, that's an underutilized system there. We can contract.
Well, I think us Canadians can be proud of our North Pole heritage. The fact that we actually is our biggest secret weapon is Santa, isn't he? It's the biggest secret weapon. Headquartered in Canada, in northern reaches of Canada. There you are, a job program for Northern Canadians, and he's out there delivering to the world on one beautiful day of the year.
That's right. That's right. And but the way the world's going right now, and everybody's such a malcontent. I think you're going to have people complaining to the government about this delivery system. Yeah, I can hear it now. Rudolph pooed on my roof, and they'll have some sort of complaint about him. Good morning, Karen. How you doing? Negotiations for 1 full year. This is Mike Cushman. Negotiations for 1 full year and no deal. The government wants weekend work. It's already covered in the contract how to do so. This, and the government says not enough.
Yeah. Our federal government.
Let's treat the postal workers fair, shall we?
And he also continues, our federal government is so loud on human rights until it comes to Canadians and federal workers. Yeah.
Yes. Well said. Well said.
Right. And Randy comes to my point about infrastructure. Infrastructure or not, it's all about cost, and people and business want cheaper, but those working to provide the service want more to cope with rising costs and standard of work and life. Yeah.
There definitely needs to be a balance there. How much can we afford to pay the postal workers and still service our people?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, we had Karen joining us.
Yeah, Karen, are you? I'm just a little curious. Have you gone Christmas shopping for Peter and I yet?
Hey, mine's an awkward shopping list, because I demand everything but expect nothing.
Well, the reason why I mention it is I'm pretty sure Karen wouldn't have the heart to give me a lump of coal. So
my lump of coal was is on its way by snail mail, and I mean it's going from it's probably halfway up Thoroldstone by now.
Well, I have a moral ethical quandary myself. I don't want to put more carbon into the air, but I got this big pile of coal that I've been saving from Christmas after Christmas. What am I supposed to do with that?
Well, you need to find some other people that can get coal, that deserve coal.
Well, I think
people that are worse than yourself.
See, Santa's in a tough spot now too. He can't deliver coal anymore because it's it's not politically correct to hand out coal because people might burn it. So I don't know, and there's nothing he can do. He can give you a lump of uranium, but it better be in a lead box.
Right. So, do you win the negotiations when you've managed to sign the workers to less than they need for more than they need to do, or do you win when you have negotiated a price that the business of moving mail can't support? Yeah.
So basically,
healthy question.
Boo, thumbs down to the government because they could have solved this problem in 1 year, and they're doing the same thing. The dock workers, the seaway workers, the rail workers.
We're unlikely to get mail today. Let's be honest.
That's okay. I only get bills anyhow.
Yeah, the bills can stay where they are. I want the mail from Auntie Mavis, not the bills.
Sorry, man, couldn't pay it. Didn't get the bill.
Yeah,
at least I got an excuse now. Eh?
It's no longer available because what'll happen is you call up your CIBC credit card and you say, "Listen, man, I couldn't pay because I didn't get the bill," and they'll say, "We've been telling you for years to sign up for e-billing."
What? There's always a way out.
I like it. Thank you. I'm not an e-billing fan. I got my credit card bill this week, actually. I'm not an e-billing fan. And I have to say that the reason why is because when that credit card bill lands on the mat, it's like, yeah, that's a reminder.
What do you do? Get a forklift to pick it up and bring it into the house?
Oh, of course. I've got one of those waiting outside.
Well, I have actually what I do for my own convenience is have the bank take it out every month automatically. That way I never get in arrears. That way it's always paid off completely. And so it's I always did do that, but every once in a while I'd forget, and then I got to do it again. So I actually just signed up for them to take it out automatically every year, or every month, and then I just check the bill to make sure it's done. That way I never get in debt from a credit card, and they got interest rates, like hideous interest rates, like around 20%.
All right. So the traditional back to work legislation will be used again, says Mike. Likely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm worried about that. And unfortunately, our current government, although I've said this before, although it has lots of really good ideas, it can't govern. It can't do the business of government. It can't do the day-to-day nuts and bolts of the government. They always seem to be fighting from somewhere behind. They issue contracts to corrupt people and all that. Even though the idea might be good, maybe the idea, like let's say ArriveCan, maybe that was a good idea. I don't know. I haven't decided myself, but let's say it was. But they end up paying $55 million for something that should have cost $100,000.
I don't think it was either a good idea or a good money spend.
Yeah, well, I'm just assuming that you said it would be a good idea. So even if that was a good idea, the nuts and bolts of the thing were done terribly.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing with these strikes. Like these are simple,
exactly,
day-to-day business of government. These are things we shouldn't even have to see. They should be automatically done. And yet it seems that they're always a pressing issue when they come up. So the ordinary day-to-day business and functioning of the government is not doing that well.
Well, Randy,
is Elon Musk to come up here and more efficient, make our government more efficient.
No. And we'll talk about that at a later stage. Okay, it's interesting that in most negotiations, says Randy, that unions want the company to turn over the accounting books to prove there's no money for wages. It's all about sharing back to the going back to the economy, provided the company is self-sufficient. It's in success, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
it's interesting what you were saying.
Basically, we want this to end really quickly. It's a kind of a shame that the government has left it this long when the union says it's been trying to negotiate in good faith for all that time. And now they got to bring it into the press. We're on the cusp of calling a strike or some worker action against the government. And now the government, right around Christmas time too. And of course they pick the times too, because it's going to be busier than the normal part of the year.
Yeah, for the postal workers, this is actually probably the most important time at which they would go on strike, because you've kind of got to say to the government, hey, it's Christmas around the corner. We've got to get these holiday packages out. It's get you focused upon getting a result. And I think that's a lot to do with it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's hope they resolve this really quick without any kind of gun to the head sort of negotiations. You got to get it done or else we're going to arbitrate. We don't want to keep hearing that. I mean, God, there's got to be a way of getting to the negotiating table and hammering out a deal without having to say you got to go back to work because
essentially, the question, of course, about arbitration is the arbitrary nature of arbitration, because the arbitrator will actually take, an arbitrary position, will look at their, their various positions and will likely just pick one or other party's position.
Yeah. So it's not, it's not that good anyway.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Niagara Falls is to get a new hotel with an enormous tropical garden and with ice sculptures. And I noticed this hotel is going to straddle Ontario Avenue.
Yeah, it's going to go right over top. So two pieces of the hotel, one on either side of Ontario Avenue. The city council members have praised it as a wonderful and unique looking building. It really is an ugly thing. When I look at it, it's just, it doesn't look nice at all. But it looks like it's going to be very functional, and it's going to have some pretty unique features, like a place for ice sculptures and an atrium. Part of their appeal was, we're going to come into the city, and this is going to be one of the first buildings you see when you come into Niagara Falls,
in the tourist area. Yeah,
right over the Rainbow Bridge. And of course, I think they misspoke a bit. So they say you could see this for the 2 hours you're going to be stuck on Rainbow Bridge trying to get over.
Oh, that's a bad way to be encouraging people to vote for this structure. Yeah. Yeah. Although it is realistic, I think it is indication that our city councillors are being realistic about that.
Well, this makes use of tourist designated land that hasn't been fully utilized, and it's
that's been a car park for as long as I remember.
Yeah, and well, Bender Hill used to be one of my go-to roads to get in and out of. I used to live on Ontario Avenue, just go down to Bender and down, and that. But now Ontario Avenue is open, so the blockades that our neighbors, my neighbors, and I made sure that we're there when the casino first started up, and there was excessive amounts of traffic going down our road and people parking there. We got parking passes so that we could park on the road. We had these cards and that we could put in our windshield. That stopped people from parking up and down Ontario Avenue, and also stopped the traffic flow. That's no longer required any longer, so they say. So we'll see about that. But
I can't see. I honestly cannot see anything positive coming from reopening Ontario Avenue. But I'm willing to see.
Well, it's a shortcut, and it's a way of people getting off, and that's what they use it for, a shortcut to get into the casino. But this hotel there is going to straddle. It's going to go over top of Ontario Avenue, and they're going to have airspace rights, which is something they hadn't come across before for an ordinary hotel. They're going to have airspace rights, and that means they do have the right to continue to expand higher if they wish to. Or you could put drones or helicopters or something like that. I'm not so sure what they're going to do with the airspace that seems to be a part of it. It's no other hotel that I can think of asked for that particular.
Well, no, there's nothing on here showing me that it's got a helipad on it.
No, but I just don't know. I just don't understand why the airspace thing was a requirement for this. But in any case, nobody at city council seemed to care too much about that when they were debating it. And they all fell into the old, oh, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it beautiful? Thank you so much for bringing your building here and all this. Oh, my God.
I have to say that, I mean, looking at this one, that area needs to be developed. That area does need a hotel. But I have to say, this is a butt ugly place.
Yeah, well, not according to our counselors who think we're wowed by it. And really, why do the counselors always say, "Oh, it's wonderful, thank you for building it here"? Well, I would be saying, okay, you got your approval, and you better do it right, or we'll come down on you like a hammer.
Yeah, that's. I wouldn't be my biggest concern about this is that I don't know that we want it so high. That's always my biggest concern is height. But I don't know that this is too high by the looks of it. It doesn't look as if it's overly high, right? But I'm concerned about parking, and I don't see any parking in it.
Oh, there is parking. They have some under the building, I think, and they made that clear that there's adequate parking.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an elevated parking area, but there is some underneath and some over. I don't know. They did adequately address that.
And I'm also concerned about traffic flow in and out of this area. Right now, I grant that it looks like what'll happen here is most of a lot of the traffic. If they open up Ontario, that may make a difference. I'm not convinced. I'm not really convinced. We'll see.
Well, it's
To say
17
it's
stories, so it's
interesting.
not that all high compared to the other tourist buildings sometimes that are in there. Now, also the fact that, but like you say, it's but ugly. It looks very much like an industrial place. If I were to see this without knowing what it was, I would think it's an attachment to some sort of industry, part of an industrial process, because it has the structure of the building on the outside. It has like the braces and all that showing, and it's just so very square and utilitarian looking
Yeah.
that it looks like it was built as an industrial building. There is no aesthetically pleasing aspect of this building. Now, inside is a different story. They're going to have an atrium and they're going to have a place where you can do ice sculptures. It's going to be they claim that it's going to be a bit of attraction on its own, some of the stuff inside it. So not only is it going to be a hotel and that kind of thing, it's going to have places inside where you can have ice sculptures and atriums, and that kind of thing will draw people and help add to the allure of Niagara Falls as a destination. And I think it was even brought up that once people see the falls, they need something else to do. Well, one of the things they can do is go see an ice sculpture, I guess, in this industrial looking building.
Well, in a way, tropical gardens and tropical gardens and ice sculptures inside a hotel is something that it means you've got tourist attractions in the hotel itself, which means that you will bring in people from outside, from outside.
As far as an engineering and architectural, but well, it isn't pleasing to the eye. Let's put it that way. But it looks as if the engineers and architects have come together and made an extremely good use of the property. In a way, basically, it's a very functioning building. So in that particular case, aside from the fact that it looks like somebody's industry, it sounds like a corporation headquarter kind of looking thing. That aside from that, the builder, those people who were talking about the building and at City Hall Council meeting, were very reassuring on the way in which they talked about the planning and how they meted out the zones inside the building. So it is an ambitious project, even though it does look not so good, but probably from the inside it would look good, So
it's unfortunate there's no published. I didn't see any published photographs of the inside.
No, it says it's going to have rotating exhibits. There's going to be an area for gift shop, of course. That's really
every hotel nowadays, and this one's going to be no different, has shopping areas down on the ground floor, don't they?
Wait a minute, this is going to be a big problem, the gift shop, because where are they going to get the gifts when Trump puts tariffs on Chinese goods?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? They're going to have empty spaces, They're going to say, sorry, didn't get our shipment of genuine Canadian artifacts from China, I don't know. But that's the big thing that kind of is so laughable to me is, let's get a Canadian souvenir made in China.
Yeah.
Niagara Falls. I wonder if they do.
Yeah, but that's
a lot of the indigenous people have skills, skills where they can make, like things like dream catchers and all those other things. Why don't they fill it up with indigenous artwork and stuff like that? That would be a real cool thing to do. You could even have somebody from the res come down and explain things to the average tourist of what it is and why, what it does and or whatever kind of artifact.
Randy,
yeah, go ahead.
Randy's asking a very basic question. Are you sure we aren't going to get simply another couple of mud ponds following the where the footing stopped?
Well, they talked about that. They talked about the anchoring of the building, and of course they have inclination. There's a incline there, and they're going to have to balance that out. And they said how far they had to go down, and they said because of this, that it's pretty solid right underneath them, so they don't have to blast too much or have heavy construction that would disrupt the area too badly. There was also concern that they should be putting up fences to obscure the view as when they start construction, because it was felt that the look of construction was not a good look for tourists. I don't think it's going to be much of a good look for tourists after it's built.
Hey, honestly, construction's construction. Forget the fences. Just you're going to get fences anyway. Just get
you got to
on
have
with
them
it.
for safety anyhow.
You got exactly. You got to have them for safety anyhow. Just get on with it. We don't need anything else additional. So, and Mike's saying,
when I was in China in 2007, I was super impressed by the Chinese fencing around their high rises. I watched the second largest building in the world at the time being built. Was the second largest after the Hajj Khalifa, and in Shanghai, and I was watching. I was in a high spot with the highest post office in the world. It's kind of a neat place. So I'm watching, and being a construction worker myself, I'm watching these guys, fly in girders and other pieces of steel, and I was watching how the guys were suited up for safety and the fencing. I was super impressed. So we might have to, not only do we might have to get our tourist souvenirs from China, we might have to get the fencing from them too.
Okay, so three points here. Mike Cushman says, so they passed the not withstanding clause on the homeless, and this is more important thing though, another hotel.
Yeah.
And as far as parking, they're building on a parking lot, that's for sure. That has hardly been used. Agreed. And filled by the activities of the casino around it. Yeah. And Christian is saying Canada's putting more tariffs on China too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that stems from unfair trade practices. And so, yeah, we do know that China engages in unfair trade practices, but we would too if we could get away with it.
Okay. So, two bridges apparently this week were closed. Closed over the Welland Canal.
Well, yeah. This is just a warning that if those old bridges are probably going to be worked on every year during the wintertime, these bridges get worked on. I know I've worked on I've worked on the canals, and I never did get on a bridge job. My brother did. He worked on a couple of major overhauls of those old bridges that go over the canals. The one that was built in 1929. I was a part of the seaway construction and stuff on the locks and the bridges going. I was on a train bridge. I worked on a train bridge going over the canal. It was built it was finished in 1929. It's really kind of cool. All the plans for it and all that. And we did prints from 1919. It was super cool.
But from the perspective of the canal, come the end of the year, we're in construction season for the first 3 months anyway, aren't we? So it doesn't matter what the weather is. It's going to be construction on the canal because the canal's closed.
Yeah, normally though they bring the canal it down so that it can be used, but there are going to be times when they can't allow traffic going over. So I think everybody should be that uses those routes should be find alternatives for a little while until that's opened up again.
Yeah, no other alternatives, that's for sure. Yeah. Okay. So picnic tables and chess tables were some of the projects that were actually voted by members of the city to receive additional funding from the city.
Yeah, I was talking with Paul about this on our city council review on Tuesday, and he was just about pulling his hair out. He just said, "This is madness." And so what happened was Lori Lococo, for one, asked that the city sort of canvass that there's a sort of a canvas among the residents and citizens of Niagara Falls to see what they wanted with their parks spending, basically. And so it came back with some pretty ridiculous things that sound good, but are just kind of really dumb. One of them is the one that kills me the most is they want a $25,000 dog agility unit element, they call it dog agility element at Fireman's Park for the dog park. Seriously, why don't you throw a ball to the dog? I mean, something like that. So the city's going to come up with this dog agility thing. 25 grand.
That seems like a 25 grand waste of money to me.
Maybe it's only 2,500. I don't know. I have to look at it again. But still, whatever it costs, you don't need that. And basically, at a time when the city council has asked the CEO Burgess to find $1 million worth of savings, and then every time he tries to tell them, how about this, how about that, they all turn it down. Well, here's an example where they could have saved whatever money the dog agility element, they could have saved that. Concrete chess tables. That's another one.
Well, they're not dumb, because in fact, actually, there's a lot of people that like to play chess.
Yeah, but really, all you need to do is bring a board and put it on a picnic table that's already there.
Granted, granted.
And will it get used? That's the other thing. Like, once the novelty wears off, you're gonna have a table there with chess on it, and who's going to use it? If you have to bring your own pieces anyway. You see what I mean? So you're going to have to bring your own pieces.
Well, Christian says we need 75,000 for heritage study.
That might be better, well spent. But these are the things that
my concern about things like heritage studies is, how often have we seen the city of Niagara Falls do things like heritage studies, and then they throw the report in the drawer and do nothing about it?
It says between August 9th and September 18th, more than 500 residents voted on the city's Let's Talk public engagement website about what they want to see at local parks and trails as a result of $350,000 being made available through the past capital budgets. Now, during the meeting, Burgess pointed out, this money has already been allotted for this, but you don't have to spend it. You don't have to spend it, and you can decide which things to spend it on, which seemed to be lost on most of the councilors except Lori Lococo. That doesn't really surprise anybody, does it? Now, what they did was they kind of said, well, Lori, this was your idea. What are you complaining about? When she tried to itemize things on the list that may not be that great of a expenditure. So all they did was come back to her, well, this was your idea. What are you complaining about? They really didn't understand it was their decision which one of these that to pay for. And that you could, and Burgess told them, you can defer some of this. You know, it was a little bit complicated in the way it was spoken to, but obviously it made it. Some of them were trying to didn't get it. They're trying to say that, well, Lori is a bit of a hypocrite. She wanted the city residents to include themselves in the budget decisions, which is a good idea. Other cities do it. And then when they came back with these, like a concrete ping pong table and things like that, which don't really seem to be much use at all. Like,
well, no, I think the idea about some concrete ping pong table is it allows. It basically means that you don't have to worry about this weathering over time.
Now, shade structures and bike, the problem is they're going to have a shade structure, but it's only going to go in a certain park. Well, why don't all the other parks then will say,
Yeah.
hey, where's our shade structure?
Good question.
A pollinator meadow, which is a really nice idea, but do we really have to pay a lot of money to get a pollinator meadow? Can't you just kind of let it go back to nature? Won't it be a pollinator meadow by itself if you let a certain part of the park go back to nature?
Yeah.
They're little free libraries that might be useful.
Randy makes the point that if we plant trees, they're shade structures.
That's a good idea, man. Excellent. And part of the initiatives is planting more trees. Concrete ping pong table. Okay, that sounds really like dumb.
I don't think it's dumb. I don't think it's dumb. As a kid, I would have taken my ping pong. You know, I would have taken my table tennis gear to the ping pong table to have played on a full size ping pong table. You know, made out of concrete in my local park.
That's you. Do you think it really is going to get used when it's wind and rain and all the other stuff going on?
Not in the wind and rain, that's for sure.
Couldn't you buy a ping pong table for a much less amount of money and put it inside the Gell Center and do exactly the same thing?
Yeah. And in fact, actually, that's a very good question. You know, inside the Gell Center, you can probably, you know, you can access it all months of the year, can't you?
As far as I know, I don't know if we've got a ping pong club in Niagara Falls. And plus, a good place for that would be in the badminton club, maybe the McBain Center, maybe inside. But you can buy a lot of ping pong tables for the amount of money this concrete thing's happening. And they could be moved. And I have a feeling that they won't get used, nor will the chess. Once the novelty runs off, the chess tables won't be used either.
Yeah,
you have to have initiatives like clubs and stuff like that to meet there, and then have the games and so on.
Yeah, and Randy asked the question: do you know how much it would cost and what it would require to make it level and useful? A very good question. I don't know the answer.
Councillor Lori Lococo, who brought up the idea of participatory budgeting a few years ago, said, well, she still believes in the process. She's concerned about moving ahead with $350,000 worth of projects when times are really tough. Just because we've approved the dollar amount from last year, we still want to do that, she said. I had several residents contact me about the process, and there were items on there that they had no opportunity to give feedback. Okay, so the process was a little bit flawed because they didn't get a lot of the people did not get feedback once after they participated in it. I think probably, and then I think the items on the list were picked by the city people.
They weren't picked by the people.
Yeah.
They weren't picked by the people. They weren't something that I couldn't even write in. You know, instead of all this, I want X, right?
Yeah, and then Council Strange really seemed to get it. It says Council Mike Strange said it would be pretty bad if Council decided to move forward with a community decision-making pilot project only to ignore the will of the residents. I think that's ridiculous. Well, that's not what she was saying. She was saying we could do some and some not. We don't have to use all this money right away. Lococo said that she would support moving forward the projects listed on the report for this year, but hopes to see that list can be one that you choose from during the next process. Councillor Mona Patel See, so the process seems to be flawed. Mattel said that such projects. Now, here's Mona Mattel, who has asked the city to come up with $1 million worth of savings, but she has not been sort of fiscally responsible because she just keeps voting for these things. She said, Mona Patel says, such projects in the city help families when times are tough. We don't have to go to the water park. They can take the kids to Kaler Park. There is also a misting station. Well, why does one park get a misting station and others do not?
Yeah, fair question. And okay, so that wouldn't be so bad if what you were doing was installing in a misting station in Park A one year, and then Park B another year, then Park C another year. If you took, if you rotated the spend on it, so you weren't hitting the
It's not
one massive spend. And in 10 years, you might be across all the city. If you did that, that would be fine.
It's not going to look. A misting station is a vandal's dream come true.
That's a problem. Yeah, that is a
And
problem.
you're going to put a lot of money there, and it's going to, and sooner or later, some idiot is going to vandalize it. I mean,
Yep.
Everything seems to be vandalized nowadays. Everybody wants to destroy and burn things. Well, not everybody, but I mean, there's enough in society that are sick in the head that will vandalize something just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
A misting station would be better down here where the homeless people hang out, where they need some place to go in the summertime to cool down. Misting station would be better set up for them, right there on Park Street or something, where a lot of our homeless brethren and sisterhood, our siblinghood, could go and cool down. Maybe even a water station.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's often been them that have been vandalizing it. Okay, Niagara Falls annual budget is 151 million. Laurie simply asked for ideas for the public on 350,000. The city is trying to make Laurie look bad, giving people the opportunity to spend nickels in their budget. Yeah. In my question, that's exactly where I left a comment, and the only comment is that I think the city needs to be have attention to the 151 million.
Yes, yeah, the $151 million. That's good advice, basically.
But we need to be voting on that budget, not on this on these nickel and diming things.
Yeah, if we go into the budget and look at stuff and say we don't want this here done, but we have to know what we're talking about as citizens. Like you might see something like that the sewers in that road there works fine, or that road there looks fine. We don't need to get it fixed. You have to find the underlying reasons for them first. What happens, unfortunately, with a lot of city stuff is people complain about stuff without digging. Not people on this show; they're very, very knowledgeable here. But what you'll find is people start complaining about stuff that they don't understand.
Yeah,
if they think they understand it, you got to drill down and be like, that's the problem with democracy. All in all, is the ignorance of the voter. So when you look at a budget, you may see stuff that we really don't need, or we could be reduced by, or other areas which need more. And that takes a little bit of effort by the voter to look at those things.
All right. Anything else on that topic?
No, I think we're done with that. I really think, though, that I'm seriously think that we need dog agility elements all over the city, don't you think?
No, I do not. No, I do not. What's wrong with throwing a ball or throwing a frisbee or throwing a ring?
That's all I ever did. Or teach the dog agility element. What does that tell you? I'm too lazy to exercise my dog, so I'm going to take it to the dog park and let him run around the dog agility thing because I haven't got what it takes to take him for a walk or throw them a ball. Seriously.
Yeah, I know. I know. Right. The ignorance of the voter is responsibility of the mayor. Says Randy. And I know where you're coming from. I understand exactly where you're coming from. And so I think we, you know,
Well,
we're in agreement on
the ignorant remarks by Councillor Strange, when Lori was trying to make her points, he obviously didn't look at it. He didn't obviously think about it. All he says is, "Well, you know, it was your idea. We've already voted for it. And what are you saying? We shouldn't do it?" No, like seriously, he's got to do his homework better too. His responsibility is to see alternatives in this. All his was black.
I like the idea that the city votes on certain things like this, but I also think that the city needs to actually have an input on the 151 million in our budget as well. You know, and it's but there's no easy answer, because here's the trouble: is you want chess tables, I don't. You know, I want ping pong tables, you think they're a waste of money, that type of thing, right?
Everybody wants a dog agility element. You know that.
I do not know that, because hey, the dog agility element, I think my ghost cat will give your dog the agility it needs.
I'm thinking right now we should have a counselor agility element where we can all force them in a fenced-in area and make them run up and down.
Oh, oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Yeah. Okay. So fists at dawn, is it?
See that clamor? Get over that.
But okay, fair enough. And hey, what is it? So you know, so councillors, if you're voting on a project now, you've got to be the workers on the project. You've got to dig the spades in the ground and actually move dirt.
Yeah. Well, also you can say you have to show it by example how good these ideas are. So I expect you to be playing chess on the concrete chess tables, or playing ping pong on the concrete ping pong thing. Seriously, but like I said before, like the concrete ping pong thing, sure. But I mean, you could have really good ping pong tables for a minimum amount of cost. And I'm really sort of taking this idea from what Paul Ramirez said. What Paul Ramirez said, you can get ping pong tables, you can get good ones.
Yeah.
And my idea would be, okay, instead of having one concrete thing, you can have a really good one at McBain Center. You could have a really good one in the Gale Center.
Where you could rent them out for $1 an hour or something like that, right?
Yeah, or anything, or book it like you do the handball courts and like on Wednesday nights when I go to McBain Center, the whole gym's full of kids playing volleyball, which is a really good thing for me to see, because these kids aren't on their phones or in front of the TV, on the front of their computers playing video games. They're actually out among other kids, other young people playing volleyball. So they're socializing with one another.
So is Toastmasters back at McBain?
What's that?
Is Toastmasters back at McBain?
Oh yeah, we've been there for quite a while.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're there. We're in the boardroom, which we should be. We should be. However, I have a big problem with McBain Center, because they're not, once we get there, they're not providing us with a luncheon or a light dinner.
Really?
No, they're not. No sandwiches. No, nothing. And you think they would, because it's us.
Okay, so I agree. I agree, Randy. You can't rent anything for $1 an hour. But you see, for two kids playing ping pong, table tennis, $1 an hour is a fair cost from my perspective. But $30 an hour for something, for someone or something, except that the money is for rentals. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to really get into ping pong, how many people are going to use a concrete ping pong table, when you could actually, if you really want to, get kids and people more active? you can get those ping pong tables for a much smaller amount of money. You could still use that same budget, just buy more ping pong tables and put them about the city. And places like the McBain Center or Gale Center, you can have the equipment you need for ping pong, the balls and the rackets, and you can sign them out, use them, and bring them back.
And Christian is making the point that he believes every decision the city makes continues to keep us poor.
Well, the idea, I could see some of the sentiment of the city. Here we go. We're providing these things for the families out there. These are things that families can use and places for them to go, like a misting station in a park or whatever. That this will, the average person, they don't have to spend a lot of money for their family entertainments. You can just go to the park or go to the concrete ping pong table. Or the church table.
If they're used rather than abused, that's fine. I suspect the challenge, part of the challenge of some of this is abuse.
Yeah, who's going to take a big hammer to the concrete ping pong table? There's an idiot out there.
Yeah, we do. Unfortunately, you're right.
I could put a 4-pounder in my car, walk over to it, and give it a couple good smashes, and the thing will come apart.
Yeah.
If I was an idiot, good thing I'm not.
Yeah, absolutely. Good thing you're not. But you're right.
My 4-pounder in a safe spot.
Don't give them ideas, Dave.
Yeah, all right. That's good too.
So I think we can kind of call it quits at that one.
Yes, indeed. And thank you everybody for listening in. I would just like to mention that Gaza thing has gone stupid. The United States did not come down on Israel for not delivering.
I didn't expect they would. I never expected they would. And
they're weak and spineless. I can't believe it. All the NGOs inside Gaza said that the deliveries have not improved very much, that the Israelis are resisting. The Israelis come back with some BS that they can smoke and mirror the administration with. So the administration says, okay, they've done enough. You knew they were going to say that anyway, because they're spineless and they're going to let these children get killed over and over and over again. 80% of the place is being destroyed. It is a blight on the history of civilization. And I seriously don't understand. It's not going to get any better under Trump. If he can bring it to an end, at least, maybe. I don't know if he can. He doesn't trust Netanyahu, that's for sure. He's been quoted as saying, F Netanyahu, F him, because he doesn't. Yeah,
he doesn't trust him. That's for sure.
So maybe we can get something done. But the way his cabinet and his appointments are looking, they are extremely anti-Palestinian. I mean, he's got people going over there saying there is no such thing as a Palestinian and the West Bank belongs to Israel. Well, what are you going to do with all the people there? They never say that. They never, I don't know. What is implied is they're going to push them out.
All right. Okay. So thanks, everybody. And Dave?
Without further ado, I bid you adieu, everyone. Peace.